Okay, so the first step with anything related to tables is kind of designing out our table and figuring out how we're going to store that information in SQL. So we can see our data here, but really this is not the best place to figure out what kind of data these columns hold. And so I'm going to show you a slightly better one. And let's go back to the main part of the data portal. And I like to go here, the API docs, because what this does is it will give me more information about what I can expect to find in each of these 60 columns. And so, you know, some of them are pretty obvious. SA key, that's going to be a number. Permit number, that's, you know, you can imagine situations where a permit number might have a series of letters in it, you know, at the beginning or at the end, so that's not always a given that it's going to be just a number. Let's see. Issue date, so that's a floating timestamp. Issue date, we have permit fee, which is listed as money. And so you really just need to go down all of these and pick what you think the best data type is to hold that type of data. And I will put a caveat on here, and that is sometimes you don't want SQL making the interpretation for you. For example, you have issue date, and sometimes there are people that write dates many different ways. So you can think of just if you had month, day, year, some people write it day, month, year, or year, month, date. I mean, there's so many different ways of writing down a date, and we don't want SQL making a guess for us. So, you know, a lot of times we try to err on the side of caution, especially in the import part of this. So what I advise is to, with these things that are dates, with things that are money, you know, I must say you can never go wrong with importing things as text, because we will show you in a little bit later in this video series how you can change that back to either a date or a money field or just a plain numeric. And when you do that change, that's when you can give SQL further context for the data that it is about to receive. So with that in mind, we're going to create our create table here, and I actually got some help because I said that this was, you know, like I said, we are learning SQL together, and I had a friend walk me through this first part, and he told me about this. Well, actually, he didn't tell me. That's a bit of a lie. He left this for me to figure out, which, you know, was good. I think it really, you know, sometimes having a little bit, this is a challenge. And so in designing this challenge, he helped me out by leaving little Easter eggs for me to find, and one of them turned out to be in the import, as we are importing things as issue date. He imported them as text, knowing that one, that is good reasoning. Like I said before, you don't want SQL guessing on the format of something like issue date, because if it gets it wrong, well then everything else is wrong. So he did put me in the right direction, tell me that this should be imported as text, knowing full well that later on in my challenge, when I try to get the year out of here, I'm going to come come to some problems and some issues with that. And so this video is how I solved the challenge. I actually did record the entire challenge previously, but it ended up being more than an hour, so I want this video series to be shorter than an hour, and and that was just one video. So I kind of decided I'm going to redo this without me hitting my head against the wall and just show you how I solved this kind of step by step here. So we have the create table. We've seen this statement before, and we have the column name followed by the data type that's going to be in that column or that the computer expects to find. And so if you were following along from previous videos, you might notice something a little bit different, and that is I have told this development environment, my SQL editor here, to capitalize text that is that contains reserved words. So you will now see more capitalized text, and that is just to clue you in that SQL has a special meaning for this word. And so let me go ahead and, so if I just erase one letter from text, you see it goes back lowercase because that is what was originally typed. And so when it becomes a reserved word, it is capitalized. And so hopefully that will kind of be another visual clue to you that these words have a special meaning, and you'll start to see the syntax of how SQL is put together. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and run this code, and this will create our table that we will be importing things into. Everything went great here. And now, so the next thing we need to do as we pull things in, you know, you could do this in an SQL statement, but I find that it is easier to do it this way. I will show you right here. So instead of the SQL statement, what I do is I went down through schemas, and so I'm using the graphical interface here. Go to tables, and so this is our building inspection permit table. It's one I just made. Let me go ahead and right click it, and we're going to go down here to import. And so of course it pops up off screen, but that is no problem. And I need to tell it what kind of text I want it to import, and that's, so that is a CSV. And so I'm going to browse here, and I have saved this to the desktop. I don't think we need to do anything more here. Might need to tell it that it has header information. And that is about it. So I can go ahead and click import. And it says done, so I can get rid of the screen here now. And let's do our favorite little query. Select, and so star, remember that is select everything from building inspection permits, limit, that will work. So there we go. We have pulled that data in, and now we need to go back and make some corrections.